Today is March 18th, and this is March Between the Bases starts right now. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Between the Bases podcast. My name is Noak. Alongside me today is Double G, Gavi Gantz. Gavi Gantz, how you doing today?
Thank God I'm doing well. How are you, Noah?
Doing amazing. I know this is a baseball podcast. It's called Between the Bases. Don't worry, we're still doing baseball content. But today, it's March Madness, and it's probably the greatest tournament in the world. So, I mean, you
Also,
could
the
say the
first
World
day of
Cup.
the MLB season.
Yeah, first day of the MLB season starts next week. Before we start and obviously get into March Madness, I do have to say thank you to everyone that's liked and subscribed in the last couple of weeks. We've kind of switched the format from less podcasting to more playing games. Mo, he's leaving us. He's coming once a month, so you're gonna see a lot of different faces coming around here. I'll still be here, but Mo's coming once a month, and he'll still be with the game. So, thank you for everyone for cooperating with the switch. We're still gonna be doing all this. Baseball season's here now. Hopefully, we'll get Gavi Gantz on. He's a Mets fan coming on soon. But let's get on to March Madness. Obviously, I shouldn't be really asking you these questions because the saying is, the more you know, the less you're gonna do on your bracket. Obviously, my Rutgers Scarlet Knights had the two best players in the country and didn't go anywhere this year. So, well, what are your
Yeah.
thoughts on this year's bracket?
This year happened to have a much stronger uh, field than previous years. Just the stat that I want to point out is quad one, quad two, quad three is the strength of a win or loss. The past 4 years, the lowest of each quad three, quad four losses, which are the worst type. There have been 17 quad three losses last year, and 2 years ago, there were seven quad four losses. This year, there were seven quad three losses and zero quad four losses throughout the entire tournament. It's a very strong field.
Yeah, you mentioned that. Obviously you have the top four, and maybe St. John's you want to put up there in that category. But really, it feels like it's Duke's bracket this year because they have Cooper Flag. Obviously, you don't know if he's healthy or not. But do you think Duke is the favorite of the tournament? And if you don't think so, then who do you think is?
In my personal opinion, Duke is the favorite in this tournament, but I don't have them winning. I feel like Cooper Flag's health could be a massive blow to them, and Malik Brown will also might not be available for part of the tournament, and he was a defensive anchor for them most of the season.
Just saying, if Rutgers would have gotten in, they would have won the tournament. Just putting that out there, Dylan Harper.
I
But
fully
obviously,
agree.
I'm a Rutgers fan. You're a Kansas fan. We'll get into Rutgers later, but Kansas, give us the breakdown on them. Give us what you think their ceiling is and in anything about them.
Kansas happens to have a very interesting part of their bracket. They got a coaching matchup between Bill Self and John Calipari, two of the best coaches of our generation, first round, Kansas, Arkansas, 7 seed, 10 seed. Winner of that will play St. John's, another legendary coach, and Rick
Pitino.
Pitino. I think Kansas can win both those games. I think they have Elite Eight potential, maybe Final Four. I think not sure whether or not they could beat Florida, but I fully think they could beat teams like Maryland, UConn, Memphis, Colorado State. So looking forward to see what happens.
Yeah, you mentioned St. John's. Obviously, we're in the New York area right now, and this city, New York City, goes crazy for St. John's basketball. Obviously, you hear about the 1980s when St. John's was this dominant team like the Dukes, the UNCs of today. Do you think St. John's realistically has a shot at winning this tournament?
For sure. My first bracket I made, I had St. John's going all the way. They've got a very tough second round matchup, winner of Kansas, Arkansas, both teams that are on the rise, even though Kansas' record doesn't necessarily show it. Everybody in the team says the environment's been so much better despite a slow start, and I think they're great. St. John's has to go through them. They're going to have to go through whoever advances from the other side of their quadrant. Memphis, Colorado State, UConn, Florida, Grand Canyon. It's a loaded quadrant, and I think St. John's could come away with it. Although they are playing the fan favorite. The fan favorite is the one seed in their bracket in Florida. So looking forward to see how that quadrant goes.
Yeah, obviously, I'm rooting for St. John's, because you gotta get a team from the area in. But the run that they went on over the past what has it been? Past couple of weeks, where they went to the Big East tournament. They won the Big East first of all, the regular season, and they beat, I think it was Creighton in the Big East championship game. And the way the city gets for them, it's crazy. It's loud. It's like I think it was Rick Pitino that said it. When they play in the Garden, it's like the Knicks are playing in the Garden. And as Rick Pitino, someone who coached New York Knicks, saying that that they mean so much to the city. So I hope
Yep.
they go on a run.
Very important to point out, their first two matchups are going to be in Providence, Rhode Island, which, while it might be 3 hours away, is essentially a home game for an NCAA tournament team with a city as large as New York, fan base as invested as they are in St. John's. I think that crowd's going to turn points the other way. I think it'd be a 5, 6 point swing, essentially a home game.
I mean, look at the Big East tournament, a tournament that's supposed to be on a neutral site. Obviously, they played in St. John's has two home stadiums, and one of them being MSG. So obviously, that building was rocking for St. John's. But moving on, obviously, one big part about March Madness is why nobody's bracket goes perfect. It's because of that Cinderella team. Which team do you look at this year and say, this team, I could see this team being in the Sweet 16. I could see this team being in the Elite Eight. Who's that Cinderella team this year?
There are so many teams this year. There's Liberty, UC San Diego, Yale. Me personally, I have 11 seed UNC going far. I think there's Sweet 16 potential. UC San Diego, I think, is a first round exit, despite being everybody's favorite team to pick. They're a very against a very strong Michigan team. I love UNC as an 11 seed. You might not call them an underdog. If you don't, I think Yale's a first round win. I think the Akron and Liberty both wins. My personal pick for the upset of the first round, I don't think they'll go very far, but I do think Lipscomb will upset Iowa State. Gut feeling. Gut feeling is very good usually.
Yeah, I got a gut feeling with two of these teams. I got a gut feeling with Troy beating Kentucky. I don't know what it is. I mean Kentucky last year. They came with the team with the freshmen. Everyone was talking about, this Kentucky team is so good. And much like my team, the Rutgers Knights, Scarlet Knights, you see that these freshman teams don't really win. You put the chemistry around them. Obviously, it's a different Kentucky team, but I have a gut feeling in Troy this year. And another team I have a feeling in is McNeese over Clemson. Obviously, I think people are picking that as the upset of the tournament. Anything you have to say about Troy or McNeese?
Yeah, the difference between this Clemson team and the Clemson team of last year is last year's Clemson team and the year before that was coached by John Calipari. Now we have Mark Pope, a different coach. Also, last year's Clemson team, as you said, was a very freshman heavy team. This year's Kentucky team is one of the most, I'm at Kentucky. This year's Kentucky team is one of the most experienced teams in college basketball, and I think they will crush Troy. Clemson, on the other hand, I think, our two upset picks in McNeese and UC San Diego both ended up against two very strong 5 seeds. I think Clemson was second best team in the ACC and ended up as a 5 seed, despite being ranked top 15 in the AP poll. I think that they're a very good team. I don't think McNeese stands a chance. I think Clemson's a Final Four team.
Oh, that's a good take. Obviously you mentioned UNC as your sleeper team. There's a lot of drama coming into this tournament. Obviously, they played in the ACC this year. The ACC, besides for Duke, was not really what it once was. The SEC kind of took that spot where the SEC is no longer a football school. Now they're like a basketball school, and the ACC is kind of weak. But the drama was that people didn't think that North Carolina should be in the tournament. What are your thoughts on that?
Uh, I'm a neutral fan. I'm a Kansas fan. We kind of have a little bit of a rivalry with UNC. And I think UNC fully deserves to be in this tournament. Just one bad loss in quad three against Stanford Saturday, lost by one. Every other loss came in quad one. Even though they haven't done great against quad one, they've done great quad two, great quad three, great quad four. Everybody in the tournament does great quad three, quad four, though. But I do think UNC had a strong win neutral site against UCLA. They had one of the strongest non-conference strength of schedules, and well, they weren't able to capitalize on it. That's why they have so many quad one losses because of the amount of opportunities that they got. And if you're making the argument that they shouldn't be in the tournament because of their amount of quad one losses, then you seem to be arguing that if you get that a quad one loss, if you can't capitalize on it, is just as bad as a loss in another quadrant. People that say UNC doesn't deserve to be in the tournament are basically saying that they'd rather have your losses spread out across quad one, quad two, quad three. Because there are many teams in this tournament that don't have a lot of quad one wins. Some have none, some have one, and they're still in this tournament. I don't see anybody complaining about that.
Yeah. What's a matchup you look at? Obviously, the chaos starts Thursday. I mean, officially it starts tonight, but chaos starts Thursday and Friday. So, what's the one matchup you're looking for in the round of 64 and saying, this is going to be the best game of the weekend?
Best game of the weekend, 100%. No doubt in my mind, it's going to be Kansas Arkansas. I do think Kansas will win, but Arkansas is a good team. Kansas has had their moments where they don't look like a good team. Another great game, Missouri Drake is going to be a good game. I'm already looking forward to tonight. San Diego State University against UNC is going to be a good game. There are so many good games. First round, though, still got to give it to my team, Kansas versus Arkansas.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit of bias speaking there, but I kind of like the call. Obviously, I kind of asked you about the sleeper question before, but the 16 seed, only two 16 seeds have ever beaten a one seed. That being the Maryland team, I forgot that name, and FDU, which is right here. Um, but what are your thoughts on which 16 team do you think could beat a number one team this year? Not saying it's going to
I don't
happen,
think
but
any 16 teams have even a little bit of a shot. All four one seeds this year are extremely strong, way above the rest of the field, way better than these 16 seeds that lost. I don't think and Florida's red hot. They're the weakest one. Houston is has lost all of their games by a combined 14 points, and Auburn and Duke are just so good. I don't see a world in which any 16 seed loses this year.
all right, there you have it. No 16 team is going to win this year. Mark it down when a 16 team wins this year. As we start to wind
Yeah,
down, obviously you probably know more college basketball than me than every other school except the one. Having to rep them right now, mention them a lot throughout the episode. The Rutgers
not in
Scarlet
the
Knights.
tournament.
Obviously not in the tournament today. I mean, I could tell you what went wrong for them, but in your eyes, what do you think went wrong for the Knights?
They just don't have the depth. They have solid starting lineup. But even the team with the best starting lineup in the country per metrics, Maryland, is only a four seed. They had a better depth than Rutgers. Rutgers, no matter if they're playing any team with a functional bench, their bench is getting killed. And even against the starters, if Dylan Harper doesn't have a good night or Ace Bailey doesn't have a good night, then they're a one man show with no depth, nothing around them. And they need Ace Bailey to have a good night and Dylan Harper to have a good night with the depth playing well. They just never clicked. If that had everybody click every night, or it wasn't going to work out.
I mean, it wasn't like they were. It was Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper and a bunch of scrubs. You know, there were some nights where Dylan Grant would step up, Tyson Akoff would step up.
I'm looking forward to
Um,
Dylan Grant next season.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to Dylan Grant next season. I think he's gonna be great for this Rutgers team. But obviously Zach Martini was a big miss for them coming from Princeton, and I'm forget. Oh, Jamichael Davis. Anyone else? I think I'm
Davion
missing.
Smith averaged 20 last year.
Yeah. Um, But like, what makes Rutgers and obviously the farthest they made in the past 10 years is the round of 32 against Houston in 2021. What made that team that 2021 team so special was the chemistry they had. Paul Mulcahy, Caleb McConnell, Ron Harper Jr., Geo Baker, Jacob Young. That team had chemistry and they had grit, which this Rutgers team didn't have. It was kind of like Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey. They're going to be here for a year, so you know Pikel, you got to fix this. Hopefully next year will be better. Dylan Grant, um, Jay Will this year. Jeremiah Williams wasn't what we thought he was going to be. We thought he was going to be much better than that. And looking forward to next year with the Scarlet Knights. So
Yeah.
before we wrap it up, this is a baseball podcast, and you're a Met fan. So what are your expectations for the Mets this year?
This year, the Mets have never played well with expectations, but I think this year's going to be different. Steve Cohen, we have another great manager in Carlos Mendoza, great talent. Our pitching depth will be a problem, but I think that the front of our lineup is just one of the strongest in baseball. The Dodgers are the only team that's better. And I think that that's enough to propel us to a 90 plus win season, maybe 100 wins. And I think we are going to the World Series this year, maybe even winning it. Subway Series.
I mean, I would say it's a guarantee for a Subway Series, World Series, if the Mets make it on their part because the AL is weak. And but I can't say anymore because the Yankees' depth is depleting. I mean, the Mets' pitching rotation is still worse. But for me, the Mets, they played the hardest division in baseball because they had to play with the Braves and the Phillies. The AL
Do
West
not
doesn't really.
forget about the Nationals. Nationals breakout team.
I think they're a year away. They're a year away. They have Dylan Cruz coming. Dylan Cruz was here last year, but I think strong candidate for Rookie of the Year. James Wood is up there. I think they're a year away from competing with how good the top three teams are. But
I know you're
double.
running this podcast, but what do you think of the first taste of MLB today? Padres, Dodgers, Cubs.
I mean, it was the Shohei Ohtani show. I mean, I felt bad if you're a Cubs fan because it's all about Shohei Ohtani. I mean, that's what you're gonna get when you go to Japan and when you play the Dodgers. I mean, and I feel bad for the Dodger fans too because you got to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I mean, at least Cubs fans had to wake up at 5, 3 o'clock in the morning to watch your favorite team play.
Did you wake up for it?
I woke up at around 6:45 our time, which we're on the East Coast, so around the third inning.
All right.
Yamamoto looked nasty.
Imanago's great until they took him out after four.
Well, he walked 4 batters, so looking forward to Grand MLB season. Hopefully, we'll get you on again. Obviously, with Mo, as we mentioned in the intro, only coming from one episode a month. Again, he's going to be in the games, but not just the sit down podcast that we have now. Thanks again, Double G, for coming on. Anything
Thank you
else you
for
want to
having
say?
me. No,
Yeah.
thank you so much, Nook. Have a great night.
Have a great night. You're always welcome. Remember to like and subscribe, and we'll see you later.